the potential consequences of the reckless womanizing, because there are many levels of potential consequences for that.
Yes.
There's there's the moral aspects, there's the ethical aspects, there are the legal and financial ramifications, there are the potential health ramifications. It's just messy. Which is why with that particular piece of advice of go out and sleep with at least 50 women. I know that's more of a Myron thing than a you thing. But I'm just like, yeah, that's really horrible advice on multiple levels if people are to take that literally and go and act it out. In fact, if someone were to do that, probability-wise, just the chance that at least one of those women even would get potentially pregnant is pretty darn high. And now you're either having conversations about killing your child or becoming a parent to, parenting a child with a person you may not even like
or care about,
let alone love, which is, whether from the male or the female perspective. Yes, I'm aware that this happens by the millions around the world, but I'd also argue that's one of the biggest problems that's plaguing our society in general and messing things up.
So you brought up a very good point.
Yeah.
The morality and also the actual consequences of these actions, right? My question to you is, what's a better solution, you would say? Because at that point, the solution in itself...
At which point?
Because hold on.
Okay.
So his thing is 50 women.
Mm-hmm.
At least you should have experience with to actually talk to, date, see what you actually want. He didn't say have sex with all of them. He just said experience 50 women in that context.
He's outright said sleep with 50 women.
Well,
he said that.
Well, in the nuances of it, of course. Will you always do that? No, but
no, not everyone even can.
But
do
the blanket statement is going to be yeah, of course. But my thing is at that point, what is the better solution to meet women, understand them, and actually know which woman to pick for you? Mm-hmm. And as men today, as you know, Zuby, dating women is hard because you don't know from head to tail what she actually wants fully. Mm-hmm. She may play games, she may act like she wants. You just really don't know until you actually have experience with women to understand what they want.
I get that, and this is an interesting conversation because this is where if you take the two sort of extremes, let's say you have the secular red pill on one side, mm-hmm. and you have let's call it the Christian or religious conservative on the other side. Mm-hmm. Okay. In that former sense, I understand the logic and the thinking behind the argument of, okay, if you're a young man, you've got to go out there and gain all of this experience so that you know what you're dealing with and you can discern between different types of women and you can see what you like and you can see what you don't like and so on and so forth. And if you remove any type of religion or traditional morality away from it and you're just running on this consent-based morality, which, by the way, is a very liberal and feminist concept, if we're being honest, then cool, just go out there, live that hedonistic lifestyle, and there's nothing, quote unquote, wrong with it as long as it's consensual. I can understand the frame of that thinking, and then you've got the complete opposite end. And I think that these worlds sometimes, firstly, there's a lot of middle ground here, but I think they often miss each other because there are certainly a lot of people who are, I don't like to use let's just say the tradcon, right? Let's just say pure traditional conservative, could be Christian, could even be of a different faith, could be Orthodox Jewish, whatever the case may be, right? Mm. And particularly if those individuals are older, mm-hmm. they often underestimate just how much the situation has changed in the past 20 years,
social media,
50, 20 years, 10 years, let alone 50 years, right? So when our parents or grandparents got married and settled down, the world looked very different in many ways. It was different socially, culturally, technology, expectations, the amount of people we had access to, social norms. It was just a very, very different environment. And so do those basic lessons and principles, and certainly the ethics and morals, I think those are universal and timeless. However, people are dealing with a new challenge, right? If you take a 20-year-old man or woman in America or in the UK or in Canada, any Western country, and they're now currently in the dating and mating environment, it is not the same as it was for their parents or their grandparents.
And
I think
rough.
Right? I know. And I think that's massively underestimated by people on that side, and they don't really want to go into the weeds of, okay, well, what about social media and dating apps and like...
Can I add real quick?
Go ahead.
You brought up my situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And 50 women that Myra mentioned, right? Could you imagine if I married that woman? Could you imagine if I actually made her a serious woman in my life?
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine if I actually put her in my life long term?
Can I ask you a kind of pointed question? And I'm not asking this as like as a gotcha or like as an insult or anything. But given your experience, how did you land yourself in that situation?
You know what's funny? In that situation, I was in control. Even though like it seems I wasn't, it's because how she did it, how she like recorded my conversations and put it out there. It was a gotcha moment in that sense. But it was all under my guise because, like, again, I'm having fun. She's just accompanying me on my fun stuff. And it's not like I'm, like, wifing her. It's just, like, I'm, like, having fun with it. I'm not really, like, taking her that serious. So in that sense, it's like, okay, I'm having fun here. I understand what it is. I'm not delusional.
But why invite a woman like that into your life in any way, shape, or form?
Bro, I love whores, man. See.
What does that mean?
People forget, bro. No, hold on.
Okay.
People forget, right, that I am not Myron. I understand what I like. I know what I want to get into. Right? So yes, am I playing a dangerous game of messing with? Sometimes yes.
Why?
Because it's fun. No, hold on. You have to understand something, Zuby.
Okay.
Dealing with boring girls, to me, bro, is kind of like, how to explain this? I've had so many.
Did you say boring girls?
Yes, boring girls.
Okay.
Okay. So the argument is, who would you wife? A regular girl that's going to be conservative, stay home with kids, and have fun, or from the streets? Obviously going to say conservative, chill girl that doesn't get around, obviously, right? Which, I agree. That's what I would want. But right now where I'm at, bro, I just want to have fun. Because obviously speaking, I was married before, I had good girls in my life. I just don't want that right now.
Don't you think you sound kind of like some of those young women on your podcast?
No, hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. But here's the big difference, right?
Okay.
I am doing it on my terms, and I understand the ramifications of all this happening. So yes, I did mess up 100% by even dealing with a woman in the first place.
Yeah.
Granted, though, like in the same instance, in the same breath, you ask me the question, how could this happen to you if you're so versed on women? And my thing is like, you're right. This one time here where like I didn't see it coming of her going to this extent to try to expose or something, expose whatever. I didn't see it happening. I completely was caught by that. But remember, I was only with her for like 15 days in total, right? So obviously I'm talking to her, gauging her like body language, how she's moving, and I'm seeing certain things. I'm like, yeah, nah, that's not cool actually. Yeah, nah, that's a little shaky. I told her to leave. Remember, if I didn't have this experience at all, I'd be like, I'm gonna go over the ride. I'm gonna get her that apartment. I'm gonna stay with her and marry her long term. I would have been totally destroyed at that point, right?
Yeah.
But I caught it and I deaded it right there. So even though yes, I did fall into that trap of even being in the situation itself, getting rid of her and getting her out of there, if I didn't have the Noah fall, I would have been completely destroyed. So I think, yes, I did mess 100%, but the level that I was actually messed up wasn't that catastrophic in that sense. That's what I would say. No, is it right? No. But dealing with, that's it can happen to anybody.
Yeah. So why, I mean, I'm curious, you've said multiple times on this podcast that you love and you like dealing with.
My new name is the Whisperer, apparently.
Okay.
But I'm not saying it's a good thing because I've actually had a change of heart because, you know, my mom called me. She's like, listen, you know, I'll always have your back. You know, our friends call me. And it's like, is it worth it sometimes? And sometimes it's not. Because in the same breath of it being fun and exciting and not fulfilling, it's almost like if like you are playing with fire.
Yes.
And at any point you can get burned. And in this situation, I was burned by her. Now, did that affect me mentally and physically? I would say yes, because I was like, you know what? I'm taking a break. I'll take a little break from dealing with women like that.
Yeah.
And it's more peaceful. But to be frank, the excitement I get from is it's funny,
addiction.
bro. It's funny, bro. but I'm saying this to everyone out there so that they can learn from my mistake, is that, yes, just understand, if you do it, you might get burned.
Yes.
Not physically, but, from either...
I think the Bible has some warnings about that.
Exactly.
So men have clearly been dealing with this for thousands upon thousands of years.
And I'll never forget the story of King Solomon, the wisest man in the Bible known to date. And he had the entire kingdom of Israel under his control.
Mm-hmm.
God gave him wisdom, understanding, gave him the best knowledge a man could ever have or wish for. And it just took one woman to destroy his kingdom.
Yep.
And he had 1,000 women, wives mixed between concubines. I just think in that moment, for myself, I made the mistake. I take that 100%. And moving forward, what I'm going to do is have fail-safes where this can be avoided. And the best way to be real, Zuby, is to have one woman that's not a in your life. That's the best way.
Hey. Fresh is all about that monogamy game now.
Well, hold on. I didn't say no, but I'm getting to that point. I'm working towards that point right now.
Yeah. Look, I think what's interesting is, there's different ways like lessons can be learned, right?
Yeah.
And so there's the direct experience, and then there's, sometimes, you can just read or hear about something and that's sufficient. There is seeing other people's mistakes and going, okay, I'm not going to do that. And then there's also going through it yourself personally. And depending on exactly the situation and the consequences of that, again, this applies to men and women. This is not like unique to either sex, right? I don't know how many single mothers there are out there in the world who, wrong dude, and next thing you know, right? It's a common story, and so it's just interesting. Like, okay, that's why I'm curious as to, not just like the past, but okay, in the future, you are getting older, hopefully getting wiser. Your platform is continuing to grow. And so I'm thinking, here's a question for you.
Okay.
Actually, there's a couple parts to it. My first question is, long term, when it does come to relationships, marriage, children, and so on, like what's your personal aspiration in that regard?
So eventually, of course, I want to have a woman that I love and adore, that I want to be with long term. Kids, possibly. Okay. I'm not sure if I want kids yet, so to speak. Maybe in the future, but not right now.
Okay. Do you think 30 years from now you would want to, like, if
I was 61?
Yeah.
That shit old.
Okay. Yeah, but Lord willing, you'll get there. When you're 61, what would you want your life to look like?
If I'm alive still, I would, God willing, I would say,
maybe that's too far. Let's say 51.
Let's say traveling the world with my girl, maybe a kid that's almost like raised, is being taken care of as well. And maybe like a couple friends that we have fun with, But I think for me, it's more like I've seen things work where it's not conventional. Like I have a cousin up in St. Augustine, super successful guy, multimillionaire, huge mansion, cars. His girlfriend lives down the street from him in a separate house.
Yeah.
And they're the happiest couple I've ever seen because they don't argue. They don't have fights. They don't get quarrels. They just come together, have sleepovers maybe, travel, eat food, and go separate ways. But that space they have between each other and that understanding is so important. Now, is it for everyone? No, of course not. I'm just saying, for me, what I've seen works. And then, for example, I have another couple that my family know, and they're like best friends. They don't argue about money, any of that stuff. It's almost like their friendship is so good. We're like, again, there's understanding and trust. And for them, it's like, all right, we decided we don't want no kids. We just want to have fun, travel the world, and eat good food. That's understanding. And I see as well, other couples where like they're married, they got married by the church, they've been together for years, but there's bickering, arguing, there's a lot of fights in between. But on paper, they look good to the world, like, oh yeah, we're a happy couple in church, but behind closed doors are fighting. And then other couples where, for example, like everything's peachy clean. Obviously, there's some arguments, but it's still happy. So either way you look at it, there's good and bad between each of these examples. Now, for me personally speaking, I'm still trying to decide what do I want to do with my long-term partner. And I think in the future, if I can have the understanding that I want to be able to keep evolving, keep a certain lifestyle, she's cool with it, then great. If not, then I got to see in the future what that holds for me. But for right now, I would say I'm just having fun, still trying to figure out what I want. But ultimately, I do want to have someone in my life long term that I care about and adore.